I spent 50 years as a divorce lawyer. I handled over 3,000 divorces, and the whole time I was making the exact same mistake in my own marriage that I watched destroy everyone else's. I'm 80 years old now, and I finally understand that the thing you think kills marriages, the cheating, the money, the communication issues, that's not it. I missed the truth until I was 73 years old and almost lost my own wife. What took me 50 years to figure out, I'm going to try to give to you in the next few minutes. Maybe you won't waste as much time as I did. I was supposed to be the expert. People paid me hundreds of dollars an hour to be the smartest person in the room, to tell them how to protect their assets and how to walk away. But I was blind. I was absolutely blind to the fact that I was building my own exit ramp every single day at home. I remember my office. It had these high ceilings and that specific smell of old paper and expensive cologne. I sat in that leather chair for 5 decades watching people come in with their folders of evidence. They had bank statements. They had printed out text messages. They had these long rehearsed lists of why their partner was the villain. And I'd listen. I'd nod. I'd take the notes. I thought I was seeing the cause of death. I'd tell myself, well, another one gone because of a secret credit card, or another one dead because of an affair with a co-worker. But I was wrong. Those weren't the causes. They were just the final symptoms of a disease that had been growing for years in the dark. I had this one couple. I'll never forget them. Married 27 years. He was a high-powered architect, very focused on symmetry and order. She was a teacher, very warm, or at least she used to be. They sat on opposite ends of my sofa like they were trying to escape the room through the upholstery. They were fighting over who got the season tickets to the opera. They'd spent $20,000 on legal fees just to argue over $3,000 worth of tickets. It was madness. But when I looked at them, really looked at them, I didn't see greed. I saw 2 people who had stopped witnessing each other years ago. He hadn't actually seen her, the human being, the woman he'd proposed to, since probably 2004. She was just a piece of the furniture in his life that had started to complain. And he was just a paycheck that didn't talk back. They weren't fighting over tickets. They were fighting because they were desperate to feel like they mattered to someone. And the only way they knew how to get a reaction anymore was through a lawsuit. I saw this pattern in every single case, whether they were 25 or 75, whether they were rich or scraping by. It was this quiet, slow-motion evaporation of presence. I'd see it in the way they wouldn't look at each other when they spoke. I'd see it in the way they used we only when talking about the kids or the mortgage, never about their own souls. And I'd go home to Martha. I'd walk through the door at 7 p.m., my head full of other people's disasters, and I'd do the exact same thing. I'd give her the lawyer nod. I'd say, "Fine, honey," before she even finished her sentence. I thought because I was providing, because I was loyal, because I was there, physically, that I was doing the work. I was a professional at the law, but I was an amateur at love. If you've watched a relationship fall apart and couldn't quite put your finger on why, tell me in the comments what you saw. I'm curious if you noticed the same thing I did. It all came to a head on a Tuesday afternoon. I was 73. I just finished a particularly nasty deposition. I came home, and the house was quiet. Too quiet. Martha was sitting at the kitchen table. She didn't have a folder of evidence. She didn't have a lawyer. She just had this look in her eyes that I'd seen 1,000 times in my office. The look of someone who had already left, even though her body was still in the chair. She said to me, "Arthur, I don't need you to be a provider anymore. I don't need you to be a lawyer. I need a witness, and I've realized that you haven't really looked at me in 15 years. I tried to argue. I was a lawyer, after all. I started listing the vacations, the house, the safety. I was building my case, but she just shook her head. She said, "You're talking to me like a client. I don't want to be a case file. I want to be your wife." I realized in that moment that I had handled over 3,000 divorces, and I was about to become the 3,001st. I was a slow learner, a very slow learner. I'd spent 50 years watching people go bankrupt emotionally, and I'd been doing the same thing. I'd been making what I now call the small withdrawals. It's not the big blow-up that kills a marriage. It's the 1,000 times you choose your phone over your partner's story. It's the 1,000 times they say, "Look at that bird outside," and you don't even look up from the news. It's the silence that grows when you stop being curious about the person who sleeps 3 inches away from you. Every time you turn away instead of turning toward, you're making a withdrawal, and eventually the account hits zero. You don't even notice the bank is empty until you try to buy something, some comfort, some support, and the card is declined. I almost lost her. I spent the next 2 years relearning how to be a human being instead of a legal machine. I had to learn how to stay in the room. I had to learn that intimacy isn't about sex or grand gestures. It's about the turn. When your partner makes a bid for your attention, no matter how small, you have a choice. You can turn toward them, or you can turn away. That's it. That is the entire secret. I'd seen it in the office. The couples who survived were the ones who still turned toward each other, even when they were angry. The ones who failed were the ones who had perfected the art of turning away. I was 75 before I really got it. 75. I wasted so much time being right, and so little time being present. For those of you who felt this in your own relationships, I'm putting out more of these. Subscribe if you want them. Here is the deeper truth I finally understood. People think they divorce because of irreconcilable differences. That's the legal term. But differences aren't the problem. The world is full of people who are completely different and stay together for 60 years. The problem is irreconcilable distance. It's the gap that grows when you stop witnessing each other's lives. I have friends who are my age, very successful men, retired judges and CEOs. They have the 4th wife, the 20-something girlfriend, the flashy car, and they are the loneliest people on God's green earth. They're still looking for a fix that's external. They think if they just find a partner who understands them better, it'll be easy. But it's never easy. It's a practice. It's a daily, hourly choice to be a witness. Then I look at my friend Earl. Earl was a mailman. He's been married to the same woman, Jean, for 56 years. They don't have a lot. Their house is small, and Earl's knees are shot from all those years of walking. But when Earl walks into the room, Jean lights up. And more importantly, Earl noticed that she lit up. He sees her. He knows the specific way she sighs when she's worried about their grandson. He knows the look she gives when she thinks the tea is too cold. He is a witness to her existence. They aren't compatible in some magical way. They are just committed to not turning away. I've watched 3,000 marriages end, and I'm telling you, Earl has more wealth in his little finger than any of my billionaire clients had in their entire portfolios. At 80, you stop keeping track of the wins and losses. You stop caring about the mahogany office version of success. You realize that the only thing that actually matters when the lights start to dim is who is sitting there to witness the end with you. What I wish I'd known at 30, what I would tell that 30-year-old lawyer with the sharp suit and the arrogant walk, is that you don't have to earn love. You just have to be there for it. You don't need to fix your partner. You don't need to win the argument. You just need to turn your head and say, I see you. I'm here. Most people never figure this out. They spend their whole lives thinking marriage is a contract to be managed. It's not. It's a garden that requires you to show up with the water every single day, even when you're tired, even when you'd rather be doing something else. If you finally figure this out, everything changes. The fighting stops, or at least it changes flavor. It's no longer about winning. It's about clearing the path so you can see each other again. You realize that you've been looking for happiness out there for 40 years, but it was sitting right there at the kitchen table the whole time, waiting for you to look up from your files. You don't have to wait until you're 80 to start. You don't have to wait for a crisis or a divorce lawyer to tell you your time is up. You can start tonight. You can choose to be a witness. You can choose to turn toward. It's the only thing that works. Honestly, it's the only thing that's ever worked. Thanks for sitting with me through this. If it meant something, pass it along to someone who's struggling with this right now. Subscribe if you want more of these conversations.